Hello, everybody. Welcome to Houdini Hangout. It is the 19th of May. My name's Peter. I am hosting the stream tonight, and yeah, hopefully we'll have some interesting stuff to work on and be able to make some cool stuff. I'm thinking tonight is going to be, um, an evening where we maybe put together something that's like a little bit more abstract, an abstract geometry type effect. That's my plan, and I'm sticking to it. Um, yeah, so glad to have you with us tonight on the stream. If you haven't joined before, please feel free to put any comments you'd like in the chat. I'd be happy to have a conversation with you about whatever I'm doing, and hopefully this can be a little bit more of like a group working environment, a place where we can all learn and grow together, and not just me talking the whole time and you guys just having to listen to my voice constantly and just not have any way to speak out. So um, yeah, please feel free to put any comments in the chat. If you think I'm doing something a bad way, let me know. Happy to take a look at what I'm doing and kind of reevaluate what's going on and go from there. I am certainly not the definitive expert on Houdini. I've been using Houdini now for about 6 or 7 years, and yeah, I just love using it. And at this point, it is now my job to get to use it, so that's pretty exciting for me. If you weren't here on the stream last week or missed my announcement, I did just recently start working with side effects for my full-time job, and so that is a very exciting thing for me. And yeah, hopefully that'll mean that I have even more information and things like that to share with you. Um, obviously, obviously not going to be able to share everything that's going on over there. Obviously, that's certainly not the case. But hopefully, just the knowledge that I'll be able to get from that will help the stream be even better. So, um, yeah. So I'm really looking forward to many more months and streams ahead. So, yeah, things aren't really changing from that standpoint, and hopefully I'll have more solid connection to my internet going forward. That seems to be the number one thing that kind of stops me from time to time. Um, and unfortunately, I think next week I won't be able to stream probably at either of my or at my regular time. I will actually be up in Toronto at our office. So that will be exciting for me, but unfortunately, I won't be around to stream. I mean, unless I was doing it from a hotel room in Toronto, which I do not plan to do because that would be just a foolish endeavor. So um, maybe sometime next week I'll be able to stream, but I'm really not planning on it. If I am going to, I'll put out a message or whatever, probably earlier in the week. But most likely, I'm going to take next week off just to be able to be out of town for a little bit. But yeah. Anyways, let's let's do some Houdini stuff. So what I was kind of thinking was we could do something interesting with um, some geometry, like maybe like a rigid body sim, and I was kind of thinking that it would be like on some sort of like a sloped thing where like these rigid bodies are kind of like falling down, and they're hitting this they're hitting a grid of some sort, maybe with some randomness to it, and as they kind of go down, maybe the effect is that the the polys are like extruding out, in proximity to where they're colliding with the geometry. So that's kind of what I'm shooting for. Um, you never know, might run into some issues or whatnot, but that's my goal, and I'm sticking to it. So, yeah, let's try that. And yeah, like I said, if you have any questions or comments, or think I'm doing something the worst way possible, or just a dumb way, just let me know, and I'd love to hear from you guys. So yeah, let's dive in. Let me get a little quick beverage, and we'll go. All right, so let me bring up my normal background here. So I've got a little bit more information on the screen here. So we have our geometry spreadsheet at the bottom. All right, let's start going here. And as a side note, please forgive me if I do anything that's a little weird to begin with. I have been working in Solaris all week, so my brain is a little in that mode, so just have to kind of come out of that and let myself be back in the world of SOPs. So, okay, let's do a geometry object. So we'll drop down a geo, and let's call this geo grid. Grid down, and let's see what kind of resolution for this that we're going to want. I don't know. Let's see if we start at 100 by 100. See how that looks. That's not bad. Let's do a transform SOP underneath that, and that we can do help it kind of get it a little bit of an angle here. That maybe something like that. Yeah, that seems like that'll be fine. Great. So maybe we'll make the size of the grid a little bit bigger as well. Maybe we'll do it 20 by 20, and then we'll do the rows 200 by 200, something like that. Cool. All right, so we got this grid. Let's do a match size, and we'll use this to just kind of get our geometry where we want it to be. So let's do minimum on the justify Y. That'll bring it up to the ground plane. I've really liked this node more and more. It's so nice. You can actually target a position, you can target a size. So like if I wanted this all to fit inside of that box, I'd scale it to fit, and that geometry is just gonna fit right in there, uniform scale, all that kind of stuff. So pretty cool. But anyways, we want it bigger. I don't want it small. So I'm just doing it to the ground plane just because I'm assuming that I think what I'm going to do is just put like a, I'm sorry, to the kind of the zero plane there, the origin, because I want to have a ground plane underneath it. So that's kind of my plan when I get to be doing near RBD. My mouse for my other computer is different than this one, and I keep pressing different buttons, and it's driving me crazy. So sorry if I do anything that's like a little weird or I'm like looking confused. I'm working on another computer all day. Okay, so we got a match size there. Let's do a mountain stop. Now, the thing that's different about a mountain versus a standard, just like an attribute noise, which this actually is an attribute noise 2.0 to be specific, but the difference here is that it's actually doing the noise along the vector. So if we grab this real quick, and I'll just do a normal, just to make sure our normals are good. So that add in the normals. This will make sure we're displacing along the normals. You can see right here, the vector is n. So if we turn off noise along vector, it's just going to kind of go crazy, which is not exactly what we want. So we want this to mainly be noise in this direction and not, X and Y. We basically want it to just be height noise. So let's make the element size a little bit bigger because I don't really want it to look quite like that. I think maybe 2.5 will be good. Let's see where that puts us. Maybe 3 will be better. Let's see. Yeah, that looks cool. Let's do 0.5 maybe. Something like that. Yeah, bad. I'm going to turn the roughness maybe down a little bit on the fractal. The fractal is basically just another noise that's being overlaid on top of this, more or less. And we're not going to do any animation, nothing like that. Great. In fact, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take this match size and I'm going to put it down here so that will match to the ground plane with the noise. All right, great. Let's just do a null here. We'll call this out. Hey, how's it going? Yeah, no, the plan is to make some sort of geometry here that's going to react to some. I think I'm just going to do some spheres or some rigid bodies kind of tumbling down the down this kind of terrain looking object and have it like extruding or doing something behind it that's kind of like delayed as far as some effect is. So that's kind of my goal, is to have like this delayed effect coming behind these like rigid bodies that are like tumbling down the hill. So that's my goal. But yeah, Theodore, thanks for being with us today. I believe I've seen a couple comments you've put out there on my YouTube videos, or the YouTube versions of these videos. So it's nice to have you with us tonight. All right, so we got an out here. And let's see here. So let's do this. We'll just make that green for some geo to start with. And let's do another geometry node. I think I'm gonna do all my RBD in SOPs. I really think there's any reason I would want to do them in DOPs. So let's just do them in SOPs. So I'm gonna call this sim RBD 5 instead of a T. That's cool. I can type. All right. Let's grab this. All right. So maybe we'll make a couple different. Maybe we'll make a couple different objects here. Let's just start with a sphere first. We can always adjust this afterward. But let's just start with a sphere. And we're going to do an RBD, say an RBD configure here, and that should start getting us into some, man, I swear this mouse is going to drive me absolutely bananas. All right, so we've got an RBD configure there. Let's see. We need an RBD solver as well. Oh, that's right. It's a different name, and I'm blanking on it right now. What's the name of it? Bullet solver. There we go. Yep. Okay, cool. And then we want to have. I don't think so. I think that's it. Cool. All right, so we got those. I mean, these really aren't going to be anything, but I'll just wire them all up the way that it's hoping for. And we'll just move this over here. Let's do an object merge. Say git grid. Let's color these red for some reason, just so I can see where things are coming into my network. And we'll do it like that. Let's just see here. I think we might see if we do visualize. If we do this, no. Collisions. So let me make sure that collision is set up properly. So we want to do, right, so this is probably not happy because it's just a flat plane. So what we could do instead of doing a grid like this, now that I'm thinking of this, what we can do is we can actually go over here, and it'll probably be a lot better if we just do a height field, because that's going to be much quicker to evaluate. So let me just check here real quick. Yeah, because if we do ground plane, we do a height field, that's way faster. So let's do that. So let's remove this. Or actually, no, sorry. Just thinking on the fly here. So if I go to terrain down here, there should be a, yeah, let's do a height field here. We'll set one up. This will be gigantic compared to it, but that's fine, no problem. Let's just do a bound on this. So I'll just bound this, get some bounds from it. Let's see here, from this grid. Oh, well, actually that's why I wasn't bringing it in, because I didn't actually specify it. Extrude volume on a grid, yeah, that works as well, yeah. So the height field actually should calculate the fastest of all of them, because it doesn't have to really calculate a whole lot. But yeah, height field on a grid certainly is a way, or an extrude volume with a grid is certainly a way that you could do it as well. So like, yeah, I could take this grid, and unfortunately I just was going too fast and didn't actually bring my grid in. And so if I, instead of doing this, if I look at this, there will actually be a collision geometry there now. So it was just me not thinking straight. But yeah, what you could do, just as an example, yeah, so you could do an extrude volume. I like to use this one a lot too. Yeah, this is a nice node. Kind of makes this closed geometry from a just set of flat, two-dimensional primitives or whatever, makes it in kind of a 3D object. And you can do all this different stuff with your depth and padding and all that kind of stuff. And it is a yeah, it's a very nice way to be able to do that as well. So that is an option as well. We could take this extruded volume and throw it in there. That's going to do basically the same thing. The only thing it looks like it's not doing is that doesn't have any normals on it. I think that's why it's looking so weird. Go. Okay. That just was looking super bizarre. So you could do that as well. I have a feeling that this is going to take longer to calculate. I might be wrong. Yeah, we could try it. Let's give it a shot. See what it's like. It's kind of always nice to be able to know some of the different ways to do things in Houdini because there's obviously a million ways, right? So what I was about to do, I can show as well, just in case that's a faster way of doing this. So what I was doing was taking a bound here, and I was basically just going to use um, the the bounding information to drive this height field. But I could even do this one easier. I could go back up to my grid. I could just take the properties from right here, which is the size. So I could just do a terrain. Height field is what I meant. So I could just do a height field. I could reference these two right here. So I could just copy this parameter, paste it over here, paste relative references. Then we have a height field. And actually what I'm going to do is probably just go a little bit past that just to make sure that we are actually, filling it. So maybe I'll just do 2 on either side of it here. So I'll just do that reference plus 2. And then what I can do from there is, so right here you see we have this grid spacing. That's basically going to say how, it's almost like in a VDB, like how is your, voxel spacing and stuff like that. So you can do like 0.1, I think is fine. Yeah, that's more than enough. That's like barely anything. So let's do 0.05. Yeah, that's 193,000 voxels because it's only a 2-dimensional grid of them. So from there, what we can do is we could do a HF. I think that's perfect. Yep. And basically what we're going to do is take this terrain and we're going to take our geometry to project, do this. And what that'll do is basically project our height field up to that terrain. I'm just going to hide other objects and we can see what this looks like. And what it's doing here is it's just basically taking this height field, looking at it and having it go up to meet the geometry there. So once it intersects it, it says, okay, there's our height basically. So these areas here, it'll have like this little border around it basically, but that's just to help it so that it's not, we don't have like any weird edges or anything like that. If it was possibly if it was like this or like this, you could get some strength, just some weird things could get set up with it. So I just like to have that little extra. I think it's fine. And yeah, so there's our height field project, pretty straightforward. And I could just do a null here and just say Jeff. And we can try all those. Why not, right? Got a whole bunch of different stuff here. So, all right, so we'll do another object merge. Actually, I'll just do it from right here. There is a way that you can do multiple merges on one. So you can just add right there, and we can have the same, we could actually merge from a different location on the same thing, which is just right there. So now both of those are coming in, right? And let's see here. So what we could do is we could do, those two things are named, right? So we could then split it, use the split, drop that here, and I'll just do the named ones out the other side. And I'll just put a null down here and say this is HF. And that'll just be a reference if I want to use the HF, the height fields. But if I pull this down here, you can see there's height, there's mask. So now it says name, at name equals height, at name equals mask. That splits those off to this this part of the network, and the other geometry goes out the second there. So basically that's just say this, get grid and HF, grid and height field. So there we go. Okay, all that just to do a collision, but hey, hopefully you learned something. All right, so we got our rigid body here. Let's bring this up, and I'm just going to use this as a reference so I can see where I'm going here. And let's bring this up, make sure just everything's colliding nicely and stuff like that. It should be just fine, but let's just make sure. Yep, looking good. Looking good. Okay, great. I'm just trying to remember here. Not forces, post solve. Yep. Okay. So what I am going to do is just going to make sure that I'm thinking about this the right way. We need to kind of, I think I want to emit geometry in. I think that's the more fun way of doing it than just having them like all exist and kind of fall in different, varying levels. But sorry, I don't want my coffee to get cold. It's starting to get a little cold actually. Right. So we have this RBD configure. Something I always get a little tripped up on for some reason. The emitting points into it. Emitting the sources. Yeah, let's try this. I'm trying to think exactly the best way of doing this, but I think we'll be okay if we... Oh, okay. There it is. So now that should hopefully no. That's really odd. Let's see, active. Make sure I'm not missing anything here. Well, let me make sure that... Great. That's what I was missing. Cool. That should do it. Nope. So weird. Why is that not working? Oh. Set it back to 0. Oh, that's fun. Okay. All right, so what I'm going to do instead is I am going to do some randomness here. So let's do this. We do a grid. That'll be easy enough, right? So I'll do a grid up here. This will just be a straight up, hopefully fairly simple thing to do. Just bring this grid up, and we'll use this for our emission. Cool. And what I'll do is I'll just do a 2 points, scatter here, and we'll just do a straightforward copy to points, and that's going to make probably a million of them that are all tiny. All right, they're all up in the air. That's why. All right, so I'm going to reset control middle click to put that back to the center. There we go. And we're going to scatter just 1. You can always do more than 1, but for now, we'll just do 1. All right, so let's do the global seed at $F. I am not going to do any relax iterations, and let's see how that goes. Great. Looks absolutely insane. Cool. That way we shouldn't have these things emitting on top of each other, and sure enough, there they are, and they're all falling down and doing their thing. Great. Looks awesome. It's the greatest sim that's ever happened. All right, let me change this to polygon. I feel like that's a little bit of a better way to mesh these because it tends to have less, I feel like less like little bumpy areas and stuff. So let's do that. Cool. You know what we could actually do too? Just to make this calculate even faster, we can do collision shapes. Instead of doing a convex hull, we could do a sphere for it. And I think that should give us a much faster to resolve geometry representation there. So quicker to calculate, hopefully. Still have collisions, and that's all working, so great. I don't want it to come out every frame, so let's do this. Let's do we're gonna just use this here, bullet emit, and we'll do $F, and then we'll do a modulo, which basically is just giving us the remainder of this, number, which is the frame number divided by, oh gosh, I don't know, 8. And when that remainder is equal to 0, this will resolve to 1, or will calculate as 1. So if we were to watch that, like this, you'll see it go. So that will give us 1 on every 8 frames. And then that way we're not like sourcing like a million of these. So that's just a nice little trick. I love the little modulo effect there. And basically that's just giving us like our trigger for our mission, basically. So cool. And let's also do this. Let's say, I just want to see here if we're going to be taking. Okay, let me see if I can put. I'm just going to add an attribute to this, I think. Do velocity. Oh no, actually I'll just do sorry. Attribute randomize. I'm just gonna give it like a random velocity basically. So what we'll do is instead of CB we'll do V, and I'll just turn on the trail right here, and so this will make sure this is normalized because we want it to be directional. We don't really need it to be we don't want it to be like a small vector or something like that. We want it to be a full unit vector. And 3 dimensions, let's do inside of a sphere, 3 dimensions, great. And we can bias it towards a direction, which is, let's see here, let's just see what that looks like. I'm going to stop. I'm just going to stop this for a second. We can just kind of look at what these points will do here for a second. Oh yeah, right. Need to go here and look at the seed. Let's do that as well. I'm going all over the place. I just want these to go. All right, I think I can just do cone angle and then do it 0, 1, 0, and that seems right. Now they're going in like a 30-degree kind of straight up. They're allowed to kind of move around in a 30-degree cone around straight up. And I actually might have them go, let's see which direction. I'm not in the X, in the Z. So I want it to go like maybe 2 in the Z like that. Great. So, and then I could always scale this up if I wanted to. Let's see. Where's that? I could do it at 10. That's probably too much. Let's do goodness. I don't know. We'll just leave it at 2 for right now. All right, so copy to points. Great, that has that. This should, by default, copy over V. Yep, sure does. So that's good. Let's see where this gets us. Should shoot it off into space. Not a lot. So let's adjust that. So let's do this to, I don't know, 10. Yeah, that's looking fun. Cool. So now we just need to move it back in space. So we'll take this emitter here and let's just move it backwards. We'll put it like, oh, too far. That's funny. I hit the edge and fall down. Let's give them a little more elevation. Instead of that, we'll do 1 and 1. That'll kind of be at like a 45-degree angle, and then we can always just Give them a little bit more of a boost. Give this cone angle to be 15 degrees so it's not so tight. It's not so wide, I should say. So the tighter we get with this cone angle, the less variation there's going to be in this initial velocity. So they should all kind of go more or less the same distance now. So much shorter, I'm not really sure, but it's okay. Let's do go 10. Because I don't want them to go that far, honestly. And let's just make sure we got a decent amount of bounce here. So let's see here. We're going to adjust some physical attributes. Do user bounce at, oh, I see, it's set to concrete. So we don't really want that in this case, so that's fine. We can just set it ourselves. So let's give it 0.5 bounce. That sounds fine. Just would like them to be a little bit, you know, bouncier as they're coming in so that they don't just like stop, you know, dead in their tracks. And let's also see what this ground is like. Let's look at that. Collisions. Let's give it a little more bounce. Turn off the visualize collisions because that's going to slow it down as well. Cool. That's looking pretty good. Oh, you know what we could actually do? We could, instead of trying to throw them like that, we could just turn this off for a second. And let's just bring this way up here, maybe. And then they'll just bounce down like that. Cool. Actually, I like that even better. That actually makes a lot more sense. So let's do this. Let's just make it maybe even a little bit wider. And then what I could do is just give them a tiny little bit of randomness. Not up, but just a little bit of randomness there. Now they're probably too bouncy. Let's turn the bounce down. Don't need it so bouncy now. All right, so just a little trial and error here, trying to find, try to find what's the most logical way of doing this, best way of doing it. Cool, looking good. So this should be pretty fun. We'll have like maybe a view like in here of this. And in fact, I am going to make this a little bit wider so we can get a better shot in here. So let's go back to our grid, and we should be able to just increase the size of this pretty easily. So if we go to 30, let's just say, let's see. Yep, that's better. Now I can actually just get the full view there. And what we can do now is let's just make sure that let's actually throw a camera down real quick. So we have somewhere to visualize this. And then let's take a look at the width of this grid, just because we could obviously go wide with it now. So let's do, well, you know what? Let's do something fun. Let's take the grid, take the size, we'll copy that parameter. Yeah, would switching, so Theodore was just saying, would switching to my HF null make the sim noticeably faster now? It's a good question. I'm not 100% sure on that, because it's such a simple sim. Let me just copy this real quick and we'll take a look. So let's just take this, we'll paste relative references there, and then I'm just going to do it times like 0.08. So it's like 80% of the width. So that should be good. Cool. All right, so yeah, changing it to the HF. Yeah, let's try that just to see. Just as a reminder, we have this height field here that's coming in as well. So what we could do is instead of having the collisions here, we could turn this off. Yeah, we should be able to. No, we'll just leave that on because I think we want collisions still. We're just going to disconnect that and add a height field plane here. And what I'll do is I'll just drag this up into here. We'll get the height field, and now that is connecting into there. It's referenced in there, and great. It's not deforming. All good. So now let's take a look at this. And my guess is we're not going to see a huge difference in the speed of it, right? Because it is just, it is just this geometry that's, it's running basically at 24 frames a second, right? So if we do it like this, we'll see it goes up a bit, but then as it comes down, maybe it gets to, oh geez, I don't know. It might get down to like 24 frames a second, right? So yeah, we're at like whatever. But let's just try now. Let's see. Let's see if we switch that over. I'll say none, and we'll use the collisions again. Try that, and let's see where this gets us. So we're at. No, it's about the same. If you're doing larger scale sims, I think that's when you'll really notice it. For something that's relatively small like this, I don't think you would see maybe a huge difference. I just was, you know, sometimes at the beginning of this, I'm just kind of not thinking straight and getting my brain into it. And I was like, oh yeah, that'll make way more sense to do, to do a height field because for some reason this thing wasn't showing up. And I know how to make a height field show up. I don't know why this isn't randomly showing up, but it was just because I hadn't connected it. So, just little silly things like that. So, but yeah, I think if you were doing a larger scale sim, a height field is certainly can be a lot more efficient. I think anytime that you're and I don't know this to be 100% true, but I'm pretty sure that anytime that you're doing a simulation that relies on the volumetric collision, which I'm not sure if RBD is using a volumetric collision. It might be mainly using a surface collision, like as its default. But I think anytime that you're using volumetric collisions, height fields are going to be way more efficient because the volumetric data is just a two-dimensional grid, right? And when it's kind of like when you're doing a sine distance field, it kind of calculates how far you are to the surface of this thing. It's kind of like a two-dimensional SDF, right? And so from that standpoint, um, you're only doing this certain amount of you only have a certain amount of voxels that you have to calculate, and you can really easily calculate whether you're above or below the ground plane, right? So that's where a height field can come in really handy. In this case, it might not be a huge benefit, but it is what it is. Let's solve. I just want to see this. Duplicate values for the name point attribute. I see. So it's not happy that this has a name, which it shouldn't. So let's actually delete that. Okay. It doesn't have a name. Now it's happy. Now everybody's good. Cool. All right, so we got these pieces of geometry coming down here like this. That's fine. RBD bullet solver. We could always do other pieces of geometry in there. And that would be cool. You can actually use this copy to points. I can show that in a little bit. We could have like other random pieces of geometry getting sourced into this into the copy to points here. You can have like multiple objects here that it'll pick from basically on this stream, and the points will say, hey, I want this specific reference or whatever, and that is done in this piece attribute right here. So we'll look at that maybe a little bit later, but first let's just get the effect working. So, sorry, let's see here. We got this. These are all coming down, right? And then if we use our show all objects, and we go back over here, and instead of looking at the height field, we just do this straightforward one like that. We can kind of see what's going on here. We've got, the geometry coming down, and it's it's coming by these things here. They're kind of sweeping by. Cool. So what I want to do now is have a way to basically say, okay, this geometry is in close proximity to um, to the, to the, hey, how's it going? I don't ever know how to say your name. Tom. Cool. Um, Glad to have you with us on the stream tonight. Um, yeah, please let me know too if I ever have like if my frames are dropping. I just noticed that I had like it looks like there was a little bit of time when I had a little lag going on here, so that's kind of interesting. You can always let me know about that because sometimes I don't even see this little box down here saying, "Hey, you dropped some frames." But anyways, I'm just gonna hit reset so I can see where we are with that. Cool. Um, all right, cool. So we've got our geometry. You nailed it. Cool. I nailed it. I might have said it before, so maybe I've said it previously and just subliminally remembered how to say it. Okay, so we've got our grid, we've got our rigid body simulation going on here. Oh, Tom. Tom, that must be your real name, Tom. That's good. That's good. I obviously missed the completely unbelievably obvious part of that, but yeah, that's funny. Tom. Tom. Ah, geez, what's going on here? Dropping a few frames here and there. All right, hopefully that's not. Yeah, hopefully that's not a sign of things to come. All right, no, let's do this. Let's see what we're getting out of here. We're outputting from the bullet solver HW. Great. And I'm just gonna. No, that's fine. Don't need to up the cache memory. Just want to make sure that what I'm getting here is actually just these spheres, nothing else. Yep, that looks right. We have packed, that should probably be packed geometry. Yep, we got 14 packed fragments there. That's great, looking good. So I'm just going to say, I'll actually say, so it's a little more clear. And I'll make that green. Cool. All right, so now let's do another geometry node. And I'm going to call this sim. This like a lighter purple because it's not actually any real sim, it's more just an effect that's going to be. So let's bring in our, let's see, let's do object merge. This, oops, one here. So let's get our grid out right there. Great. We'll say get grid again. And then I'm also going to get sim out there. Okay, cool. So we got get grid, get sim. Awesome. So we've got our two different things here. Let's do a few things to get this going the way we want it to. So let's unpack these fragments because this will work. Oh, we could do it actually with points. Be fine as well. Nah, this will be easier to figure out. We'll just do it this way. We'll unpack them. I don't think that should be too hard to play back. No, looks like it's playing back 24 frames a second. Great. Running into no issues there at all. Perfect. Then we got our grid here. So let's do a couple things here. Let's add a create. So we're just going to create an attribute on this that's going to kind of tell us like where these things are, right? So let's just call this, we'll just, not active because that's kind of a reserved thing. Let's just call this easy enough. So we've got an attribute here. We're going to say effect. And just as a little gotcha here, just always be careful not to just set the default value. set the default instead of the value can just kind of mess you up a little bit. It's easy to kind of get those confused. So you want to set the value and not the default, and make sure it's a float, it's a point attribute, and that should be good. Yep, cool. All right, so we got effect, and just to make sure, let's do this. Turn effect on as a visualizer. No, that's kind of weird. Okay, there we go. That's weird. It was like, oh, I know why. Because it was doing auto and it was just seeing one value. So sometimes this will happen, right? So what it was doing was it was actually looking for this effect value here. So sometimes when you go in, sorry, when you come in here and click on effect, right, to turn it on, you're looking for specifically the it's trying to find this range of attributes, right, or this range of values and set a minimum maximum, right? So what it's doing is, in this case, it's finding one value because it's only one, and it's saying, okay, well, I guess that's our midpoint, but where's our minimum maximum? So like right now it's setting it just as white. So if I change this white to like yellow, you see right there in the viewport it changed to yellow. So obviously we can just go back to default here. Let's just do what color are we gonna color considered in here. Where to default? Nope, not at all. Cool. Awesome. All right. Well, let's just do it. We'll just say it's red to blue with some white in the middle. Fantastic. Just make sure that it's in the middle. So anyways, if we turn off auto and just do min and max, now it sees that this is in fact 1 and 1 is the maximum. So 0 is the minimum, so that'll be red, 1 will be the maximum. So great. Let's also do the same thing on the grid here. Also put an effect over here. And instead of it set to 1, let's set this to 0, right? And so then when we do an attribute transfer, because there's attributes on both sides, we should start to get some values here, right? And sorry, you don't have to have this value on both sides. Like it'll work just like this as well. But I believe if you go to do this sample count here and then blend, it kind of doesn't exactly, I wouldn't say do what you would be expecting it to. It's kind of just this like binary 0 to 1. So if we have this set, I believe if we do this, we'll actually get what we're expecting, which is a blend width. So if you're ever like, why are these not blending? Why is it working like this? I want there to be more of like a soft border between the two of these. That's why, because you want to have the effect blending between these two, right? So it's 0 on one side. You see here, these are all at 0. And these guys are all at 1 because they're blue. And then when they come in contact with each other, or they come within their range of each other, we get this nice blend. But you're obviously seeing that something's going really wrong or really weird here. So let's set the distance threshold. Let's set this down to like really small, like 0.25, something like that. And I'm just going to make sure that we can see those. We'll just reference those real quick. And now they should be a little bit more, a little bit better like that. And let's see here. I don't even think we want the distance threshold to be like that. Let's do 0.1. And let's turn this blend width down a little bit because that's probably a little too big. Let's do like 2.5, something like that, right? I don't know. Cool. So now we're starting to get some interesting things going on here. We've got these trails going and stuff. But what we need to do instead of this is actually have it do something where it will accumulate more or less. Looks like I am having some dropped frames. Hopefully everyone's able to see me. Please let me know if not, or if it's just intolerable how it's working. Sorry about that. Sorry about the dropped frames. Ugh. Hopefully it's not too bad. Put some of the other stuff down. Okay, well, please let me know if it gets really bad. I can always try something. Okay, cool. It's all good. Great. I swear, if we had fiber internet in my city, I would be thrilled. I would do anything I could to get it, but we don't. We get stupid cable internet, and I hate it. Absolutely hate it. Anyways. Okay. The audio doesn't lag at all. Perfect. Well, that's great. What? Why the video? Well, at least the video is the only thing dropping frames. Cool. All right. So we've got the attribute transfer going here. That's great. So now let's do something here. We're going to do a solver. Let's do a solver. This is just a straight up geometry solver. And what I'm going to do is I am going to, let's see here, should be able to, let me just remember exactly how this works. So that's the previous frame. So what this allows us to do is have the previous frame plus the inputs coming in, right? So that is kind of our, that's the really nice thing about this node is that it actually remembers kind of the previous frame. And so that way you can kind of keep adding things into itself, right? So if we have the attribute transfer here, yeah, I think what I could do is put this into port 1. Just rewind this a little bit. This should do anything because I need to have this, and I'm just going to put an output node in here. The reason I'm using an output node is because that will force this to always be what's coming out, right? So at this point, input 1, output 0, this should basically be the exact same. There shouldn't be anything different, and in fact, there isn't. Great. So now what we can do is we can look here and say previous frame, right? And from that standpoint, we should be able to, if we can copy, attribute copy, I believe is what I'm wanting. Yes, that would work, but it's not exactly what I want to do. Sorry, just thinking to myself. I didn't freeze that time. Yeah, I'm just trying to think exactly how I want to do this effect. So I think what I'm going to do is instead of doing, so what I could do is just do this attribute copy, right? And what this should do is take the previous frame and copy it to the current frame. So what I could do is bring this over, set it like this. So that's the geometry to copy to, copy from the previous frame like that. And if I set this attribute copy instead of CD to be effect, it should copy the previous frame on top of this, and I think it will add it on top. I think. Let's try. I might be wrong. I might not think about this right. Nope, that is not correct because it can't. Yeah, because it's actually copying it. Oh, of course it's getting worse. Perfect. So thrilled. So I'm just making sure I don't have anything weird going on in the background here. Hopefully. Okay, so instead of doing this with an attribute copy, let's just do it with an attribute pop. Sorry if it's getting worse. I'm just going to try to just push through it. Hopefully it'll be okay. Nope, that's great. 50%. Give me 1 second to check something out here. All right. Well, hopefully you can follow along. My apologies, everybody. I don't understand what's happening here. Why this keeps happening. Literally tried to redo my modem several times and blah blah blah. All right. Anyways, so instead of doing it this way, let's do a point VOP type. All right. So we've got the source coming through. Should go right out. Yep, just like that. Standard stuff. Cool. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the previous frame, bring it over like this, and I'm going to go into the point VOP here. Basically what we're going to do is we're going to add those attributes from the previous frame onto the current frame, right? And so what we can do here is we can get, let's see, point attribute here. Do get attribute. Yep. So we're going to do get attribute, and it'll be from input to, you can also say second input. It's a float, and it's a point attribute, so let's do effect. And the first one right here should be the point number, so we'll do that. So basically just going to match up point numbers. There's no changing geometry here, so we should be just fine. And what I'm going to do is bring in, I'm going to do a bind. This is going to bring in our parameter here that we're going to, our attribute, which is going to be effect. And then we're going to also have a, oops, do a export, bind export. And we'll basically just connect these two together. This will also be effect. And we'll just connect these two together. That means they're just going to go right straight through, right? So if you're new to VOPs, left to right is the way that this flows. We basically bring in attributes here, modify them in the middle, output them or export them on the right. So here we've got the effect from the current frame. This is the bind is basically bringing in the geometry that's coming into input 1. And here we're bringing in our, let's call this into, just like that. And so what we're going to do then is we'll just do an add here. And this should basically take the attribute that's coming in and from the previous frame, which is coming into input 2, take the current frame, which is in input 1, add them together, and bring them to the output. So let's see how that works now. Hopefully that'll be right. Yep, sure enough, there it is. So that's all well and good, right? But we definitely want to do something where it'll kind of lessen over time, right? We don't want to be doing something where it's just constant like that, because that'd be kind of weird. It is kind of cool for like almost like a wet map type situation or something like that if you're doing a fluid sim. But instead of doing that, let's come in here and let's go back into our solver. And we've got this point VOP here, right? So what we could do instead is let's just say like, oh, instead of adding the full amount from the previous frame, maybe we add a certain amount of the attribute from the previous frame, of the effect value from the previous frame. So let's take this, and what we'll do is we'll do a multiply. And so with multiply, you can think of this as just a way of scaling that attribute from 0 to 1. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to middle click on this and say promote parameter, right? I'm just going to click on this little nub, and I'll call this, just say like fx scale for the name, and we'll say effect scale for the label. And you know, I'll say like previous scale or something. Quick. But here we are, previous frame effect scale. So now if I do this, it actually should be right back to the where it was before because it has 0, right? We scaled it to 0. So obviously that's not exactly what we want. So let's come back in here and let's do this at lie rate, I don't know, 0.1. See how that looks. Should give us a little trail. I don't know, maybe. Oh, actually, you know what? We're probably inside of here, so we're not seeing it. Let's come back up here and just make sure that we're setting it. Maybe it's not enough. Let's try this. Let's go a little bigger with this. Let's just do like 0.8 to see if that does anything. Should. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. We're getting a little bit of a trail. Let's do 0.9. And in fact, let's reduce how much the distance is here because I feel like that's just maybe too much. So let's do 0.25 and we'll do 1 on that. Try that. There we go. Now we're getting somewhere. So we've got these cool streaks that are kind of going across. And what we could even do beyond that is we could set up maybe some sort of a control on this level so that we could make sure that those, we can control that attribute from here without having to jump into our solver and then jump back out and all that kind of thing. So the way I like to do that is by null here. I like to make these circles. I have no idea why. I think because of Steve nipping, I think that was where I cut them from. And we'll just do a control and maybe make it some interesting color. So here we've got our control. I'm just going to say edit parameter interface. You can just do like a folder over here. Yeah, no, I appreciate the question, Theodore. So what Theodore's asking is how, if you could do something a different way. And he's just basically looking at some Vex code right now. And 100% you could do the Vex code that you're talking about right there. That would more or less work, I think. I'd have to like think of it a little bit. But yeah, so basically what you're saying in that scenario is basically doing a VOP node, but instead using Vex. And I mean, technically we're using Vex in VOPs anyways. It's just like a visual node reference basically. And for the most part, you can do anything in Vex that you can do in VOPs. So for sure you could do that. That was actually one of the things that kind of was the hook that got me into Houdini when we first started. Was I was at SIGGRAPH and they actually I was talking to a guy there from Side Effects at their booth, and they were like, oh yeah, you can do this either visual with like nodes, or you can do it all with coding and stuff. And so like that's kind of like the two different ways. Sometimes like he was like, I like to give myself a challenge and do it one way or another. So I thought that was really interesting, and that he hooked me with that. So whoever that guy was, thanks. I appreciate it. Now I have more of a career now than I would have expected. So anyways, yeah. So but you're 100% right. You could do it that way. That is, I just basically wanted to show a little bit more of the, you know, just the VOP version of that. But that is more or less the exact same thing. And yes, that would do almost the exact same thing. So yeah, great, good call. All right, so I'm just gonna put a float in this folder, and I'm gonna just call this like something like, I don't know, goals. And then I'm going to call this, actually I'm going to call this trail fade percent, I guess. It's interesting. I don't think they actually have a percentage in here. That's weird. I wonder why they don't have like a percent in here. Is there? I think so. Oh. That's cool. I never really noticed that before, though. That's cool. Huh. Just learned something new in there. That's kind of cool. Yeah, it's too bad they don't have like a percentage or something here. Anyways, sorry. Now I'm just oh, that'd be kind of cool to have like a percentage sign there instead of that, but no big deal. All right, so that should be 0 to 1. Make sure I have that. Parameter, I'll set the range 0 to 1. Apply, accept. We've got our trail fade percent. I'm going to copy that parameter, and I'm just going to paste that into here, paste the relative reference there, and then that'll just make sure that that parameter drives that one. So set this to 0.5, which is like 95%. See what that looks like. Should give us a nice long trail. Yep, cool, great. So that's all well and good. The only other thing that I want to do is make sure that it isn't going to be deforming right where the sphere is, because that obviously we wouldn't want, right? Because if we were deforming it this way, it would look really weird with it being like, you know, right at the sphere or whatever. But the other thing that we could do in this case is we could, you could basically like age that those points as well. That would be like another way that you could do this, which would be kind of interesting. So instead of doing it like this, we could have it where like over a certain ramp of age, behind it, the effect would happen or whatever. So that's possible as well. I'd have to think about that a little bit more, but I think what we would end up doing with that is be kind of similar. Just trying to think. Yeah, that might be a little weird. So like what you could do there is like count, you could have like the attribute like go up to like, I don't know, however long you want the trail to be in seconds, and then like count down to 0, right? And you could have those attributes being counted down each time. And then from that standpoint, you could actually make a ramp that would, yeah, let's just do it. Let's give that a shot. All right, so this is, I'm just going to call this like fade rails. And let's do another one that'll look a little different here. And we'll call this one age trails. So it really should be able to be about the same. I think the only difference will be that instead of having a, I think we might just make a different one of these. Let me just do this. Just bring this over here and do this. So instead of doing it with a blend width, I don't really want to do that because that won't make any sense. So let's turn that down. We'll do a little bit of distance threshold here like this. So it'll basically just be an area. I guess I could do a little bit blend width. Just want it to mostly be. All right, so that's going to be our, that's going to be like our active area, right? Whenever we get like a little thing like that, it'll be active. And so we could actually maybe make the distance a little bit. So that sounds good. Great. Okay, so that'll be our active area, right? And so it'll be a really similar effect, but the big difference here will be that instead of let's see here. So we'll have, instead of it being effect, let's change this a little bit. And I'm just gonna say attribute do rename here, and I'll say from effect to age. Here, same thing, effect to age should work. So when we come into here, I'll actually make sure here. Yep, we don't have anything there. And if I hit the eye, go to age, same setting as before, that's why it's white. So I'm going to do min and max, great, 0 and 1. We can always remap that 0 and 1 later, not super important. And then here, this should do the same thing. Oh, interesting, it's reversed. That's fine, whatever. We'll know visually what's going on. Cool, okay, so let's go, yep, click those frames, go for it. All right, so we got these age trails. This stuff is all going to look more or less the same, but instead of effect, we'll just do, oh, we don't even need to bring this in because we can get age from right here, which is kind of nice. It's one of the global parameters that'll come in, and we can just change this to age as well. Great. Input to age attribute. And what we're going to do here is just, we'll take this multiply out like this because we want it to actually have this trail in this case here, right? And let's go up. Take the should. Oh, right, because I'm not outputting it to the right thing. This needs to go from effect to age because we don't have an age over here. So. All right, let's take a look at this. This should be back to where we were. We've got trails of it. Great. Looking good. Cool. All right, so what I'm going to do now is instead of that, I am going to come in here and let's say each frame we are going to we're going to take the age attribute down by a certain amount, right? We're not going to multiply it, but we're going to subtract here. And this will be, I can do it by, let's try it by this time increment. I think that'll work good because that's like the fractional frame, I think. So let's try that, see how that works. Well, that's probably too little. Let's see here. So instead of that, let's cut this and we'll promote this parameter here. And we'll say time sub time subtraction. Let's say age sub name. Go. And then I'm also going to make a thing for control here, and I'll just put a little separator there so I know that they are different. With those, nope. Let me just make miscellaneous. All right, so let's put a separator in here. Another float. Just call this great. Apply, accept. Copy that parameter. Throw it in here. Actually, sorry, up here. That should, oops, that should be connected. So let's see if we do 0.1, see how that works. It's very strange that there's not a lot going on down there. Let's see. Is it 5? Going too strong here and it can't actually build up? That could possibly be what's going on, but I don't doubt it. Some going below 0. Sure, yes, yes. You are correct. That's the problem. Thank you, sir. You are 100% correct. So what I need to do there is, should do it. Clamp on the 0 and 1. That should be just fine. Because it'll be bringing in these attributes, making sure that they don't go below 0 here, and then add them back together. I think that should work. Let's try it. Yes, that is 100% what it is, because they were going down into the negative territory, so they couldn't. There we go. Much better. Much, much better. Thank you. That was very astute note there. Let's see here. So now we can definitely play with this and make this work a little bit better. Yeah, it's working pretty well. So 0.1 is probably too much. Let's do 0.5. So yeah, so this'll do some fun stuff now, because now we're getting these attributes that are kind of fading out and stuff, right? Yeah, I think it is better than the first way, actually. I think you're right. Yeah, just as a comparison, there's that. Let's look at this one here. Yeah, this one almost feels more like a water effect or something. You know, it doesn't feel quite the same. And in fact, I think it might possibly be that I should have actually been subtracting this as well. Now that I'm thinking of it, that really should have been how I did it in general. But it's okay. It's a different way of doing it. It's a little bit more this like fadey kind of thing. You know, you never know which way is going to work better, I guess. But okay, cool. So this is looking pretty nice. So now the question is kind of like, okay, well, what do we do with this, right? So let's just do something real crazy here. Cool. All right, so what I'm actually going to do from here is, what I would like to do is actually tweak these ages, because they should be between 0 and 1. And I want to do a ramp on them. So I'm going to do another point. And I'm going to take same thing. It's going to be pretty straightforward. I'm just going to be taking the age, remap it. So all I need is a bind export for age, because there's no age over here. It is kind of a restricted, thing. I shouldn't have probably used that, but whatever. It's fine. It'll do. It's not going to freak it out too bad. And then I'm going to just do a ramp parameter here. And this should give me a pretty nice look. So I'm going to take this and this here. The ramp is going to be a spline ramp. It's going to be default interpolation of linear. And for whatever reason, it goes like this, just flat. So I'm going to set it up with like a hill. I don't know, something like that. Sure. And so now what we can actually do is have it go from, 0 to, we can have it kind of do some random stuff here. So I think what I want to do is, I don't think I want this to be, okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop this blending, see if that changes, because I don't like the way this is happening here. I want the trails to not have those edges kind of to them, per se. So let's see if that does better. Yep. So what I wanted to do now is I'm going to remap this basically. So I'm taking a 0 to 1 age, that's linear, and I'm going to remap that to be so that it starts actually kind of at 0, like here, right? So here's the start value. I want to make sure it doesn't start right where that thing is, like that. And I want it to go up, like maybe something like this here, and then go down. It's too, I see. All right, I actually want it to come up like this. Let's see what it does. Yep, something like that. So now we've got this, there's kind of this like trail that goes behind it like that. It should be better for the most part. Kind of wild looking, but I think this will do what I want it to. So let's just hope. All right, so we've got this age attribute, and I'm actually just going to grab another one of these because I'm going to rename it. Let's name it from age to I don't know why I'm renaming it this much. I just want it to make more sense. I think it's too complicated that it's an age attribute here, so let's just rename it. Say age to. So now if we do a polyextrude, bring this in here and give it a little distance, right? So let's give it, I don't know, give it a distance of 1, let's just say. And instead, I don't want those normals to, I'd like it just to go straight out. Just trying to think what the best way of doing it. Just thinking, because this is going to look weird if it displaces like that. I think what I could do is just okay. So what I could do is I could do a point attribute here and make sure that there is an attribute that's pointing up in the direction that I want it to be. So let's do that. Let's just do a create, easy enough. C, do a vector. This will be a point vector, and let's call it extrude direction, like this. Extruder. And let's make that something we can see. Let's just do it straight up first. Good. So instead of it being straight up like that, let us something like good. Should do what we wanted to for the most part. All right, so we'll come down here and turn that visualizer off. And instead of using N, we'll do extruder. Perfect. That's what we want. So we want it to go in that direction. And so cool. So now it's just like a volume that's like extruding. It's kind of like that volume extrude that we were doing before, but that's on as well. Great. So what we want to do is go to local control, and here we'll do, instead of Z scale, we'll do extrude. Of course that's not working because we need it to be not a point attribute, but this needs to be a primitive attribute. And we could do, yeah. So let's do an attribute promote here. and we will promote the extrude from point to primitive. And now we should have an effect going. That should be kind of interesting, maybe. What's going on? Let's take a look. Turn off this, redirection. Turn this off. And let's see our extrude primitive attribute. Yes, I think you're right. There it is. Thank you. Thanks, Theo. I missed one little thing. There it is. Cool. So now we've got something interesting going here, hopefully. Turn this off. Got... Definitely not going to be fast, huh? What's going on? Polyextrude, they need to work on some speed up. This guy. So the cool thing here is that we've got this attribute, right? So we have a ramp here. Where is it? There. That we can actually use to now control how this attribute is kind of made after the sphere goes by, right? So we can tweak that. And then you can also change how far afterwards that goes. So this is all now happening. This is kind of all happening. You have this effect that you can then change after the fact, right? This isn't all stuff that's baked in, right? So we could go to this isn't like a simulation, right? The only simulation are these spheres falling, right? And so we have a few different things going on there, but just to make this a little bit easier, why don't we go back up to just go back up here to the grid. We'll just make this a little bit less so that we don't have to sit here for quite as long. Let's see if we go back, play through this, let's see how this goes. It's a little better. It'll actually play. It's playing at 7 frames a second, but hey, it's something, right? Now this will obviously adjust the speed at which these things will it'll adjust how long it's taking for this attribute to get removed because there's less points for it to be calculated on and stuff like that. But one of the interesting things here is, like, I'm just trying to watch this, and yeah, it definitely the cool thing is that it actually allows for these spheres to not be hitting these in front of it too, because it's taking into account all of the calculations that are happening on the grid. And so when another one like this one is kind of following down the same path, because on this frame it's writing these values of like, hey, no, the age should be back down to 0 basically, or back down to 1. It's actually pushing those down, right, as it goes. So it's kind of an interesting little thing that you can do there as well. And let's see here. So what you could do as well is, I think we could change the distance here too, so we can make it 2 in that case, right? So now that's going to be way higher, and these things kind of, ramp up, however. And you can see it's still, oh, well, just grab onto that. You can still see that it's, it's following pretty close behind. And if we wanted to adjust this here, we can make sure that it's, closer to the actual object like that. That's possible as well. We could also make the trail a lot longer, anything like that. There's lots of, obviously there's lots of options here that you can play around with, right? But this could be something you could do with any number of different things, right? And another thing that you could do as well is you can multiply some noise in there, right? So let's take, for example, we've got this extrude here. Let's look at this again. There we go. So now this is a primitive attribute, right? So what we could do is we could do a float, attribute adjust float. And we could just do a multiply. And we can take the attribute here and instead of point, let's do primitive. And we'll do extrude. Right, so now we've got this extrude attribute coming in here, and it's set to 0 because, see, we're multiplying it by a constant 0. If we multiply it by a constant of whatever, it's going to be adjusting itself because this is on auto. We'll do minimum and maximum. 0 and 1 should be the answer. Yep, that's right. So now we're multiplying it by a constant, right? But we don't want to multiply it by a constant. Let's do it by noise, right? Or we could, yeah, noise is good because then we can have a little more control over it. So now we have minimum and maximum. Great, that should work. Probably don't want to have anything 0 per se, but let's do like 0.25, something like that. Here we've got our simplex noise and the element size. So you can actually see how this noise is going to increase or decrease. Obviously, the larger the noise pattern gets, smaller, like that, you know. So we could do it. 2 maybe is interesting. Let's look at the polyextrude. And so now we've got this noisy extrusion here that's going on, and we can completely tweak this after the fact, right? This isn't a, we could adjust this offset, we could do all this stuff, and this isn't baked in at all. I mean, there's some caches that are happening in like the solver, things like that, but all of this for the most part is happening, you know, live. It's not happening in a simulation, right? Again, the only simulation that we've written out is our simulation from the rigid body. And so what we can do here is actually, even if we wanted to make sure that this doesn't recook, let's just do a file cache here, just so you can see it. Down. And what I like to do is I will just change this to sim. So that's going to be our base folder. And here I don't need to have the hip name in front of it because I know that's going to be fine. I'm just going to call this RBD sim, right? And so now we have this base name is going to be RBD sim cache. Base folder is going to be hip.sim. And if you don't do a lot of caching, these new file cache nodes are great. And what I'm going to do is I'm just actually going to hit save to disk in background and let that cache out, because that's going to cache out all these frames and they're just going to sit here on disk. Now this is actually opening up another version of Houdini in the background. I can now just like move around and do whatever here, but if I go over here and look at this, it is actually now caching, and it hasn't gotten maybe all the way, oh no, it did, it got all the way to the end, great. So this is just reading it off disk now. Now this is totally on disk. I don't even need this to be like active anymore, and I'll still get my lovely RBD sim out, but I'll leave it active for now. Anyway, so now it's cached. It's really nice. Uses a little top network in the background. Cool. All right, so we've got this here, Polyextrude. This is all doing its thing and kind of extruding, getting all these random noise values in here. What we could do is we could have it slowly moving if we want to, but I'm pretty good with that. I don't think we need to worry too much about it. Now we could also have there be some noise put in it earlier too if we wanted to. So like this noise is going to be kind of staying the same globally, right? Because like if we look at the way this noise looks here on this frame, we just play through it, that noise isn't changing on a per frame basis because you really wouldn't want it to. So what we could actually do instead is input the noise before it does this solver. So we could take the same thing, actually I'll leave this here. So we could do an attribute adjust float up here. This is the age attribute, right? Yep. So instead of it being like this, what we could do is we could do a float. Yep, there. Do kind of the same exact thing, but just make this be age. It's a point attribute, so that's good. We're going to multiply, and if we multiply it by that constant, it's going to be 0, so that's not what want? We want noise. We'll do the same thing. Minimum value maybe a 0.25, just so it doesn't go all the way down to 0. You can make the element size. Actually, in this case, maybe smaller is cool. Oh, try that. So now if we take this and cache it, we'll see that there's actually going to be, there should be some more noise in there. Yeah, you see a little bit of noise in there. It might not be as noticeable. So maybe, what we can do here instead is we can animate this noise. And now this noise will change every frame. Just go back here. So now if you watch it, it'll kind of be moving around and it won't be all the same every single frame. So it's not, yeah, that'll be what we want. So about every second it'll change. We could do it a little quicker maybe do it like a quarter second. It'll change, so it'll be a little bit more varied as it goes down. Now if we watch this, we should see that there's actually more noise in here. Let's play with this. Let's see what we got. From the 0, see if that'll introduce some more noise in here. Should. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so let's take a look and see what that looks like. Let's go to the end here. Cache all those frames, and let's look at our Polyextrude. Should all be the same up to that point. Sure enough, we got some noise going in there. So that's a little bit of a different way of visualizing that, I guess. Yeah, it's a little bit more random at the front. I don't really like that as much. Let's not do that. I don't like it. But there's two different ways you could go about doing it. Cool. So there we go. Some random stuff going on there. And I will actually animate this, I guess. Might as well. Turn the animation on. So cool. See what that looks like. Yeah, it's kind of fun. Adds in some little random variation there. Kind of gives it like a more moving kind of noise to it. So that's pretty fun. Let us also, all right, so that's cool. I like that. Let's do move this off. All right, so we know that extrude is going to be kind of the value that's driving this, right? So we know that if, I think what I'm going to do is get this to a render now. And so let's look at that. So we've got these things that are extruding out here. Yeah, let's see what we can get from this. Polyextrude. Let's do the same extrude we did before, actually. Cool. And what I will do here is I'm just going to do, just because it'll be a little quicker to do this and not have to keep calculating this every single time, just take a little less. So let's call this cache, put this in geo, that, and let's save that to disk in background. Let that go. The nice thing about save to disk in background is that it will happen in the background, obviously, but it also won't freeze up your whole Houdini instance that you're running. And you can just play through it like this, and we can see these frames come back as it goes further and further. So this should play back a little bit faster, hopefully. Not lightning fast, but it'll do something, right? So anyways, so we'll let that calculate. Call this out. Make it green. Cool. All right, so we've got that. Got our sim effect here. Gonna this off. That off. Let's see. So we got our sim effect. We do our RBD emit. Great. So we've got that all going. Cool. All right, so let's do this. Let's do a couple more geometry nodes, and I'm just going to call this here. All right, cool. So we've got these. Let's do an object merge. We're going to merge in the emit. So there's our simulation out. Sim geo. It's all our spheres. Great. Just put a null down here. Not sure if we'll do anything else in here, but we can always tweak some stuff if we need to. It has velocity and everything calculated in there, so that should be fine. Great. Right here, do object merge. Yeah, you definitely could. I mean, mops is definitely a great way of doing some of these things as well. Obviously for me, I don't use it all that often, so I'm way faster to do it this way than like trying to think about how they had it set up or whatever. But yeah, I'm sure you could do it in there maybe faster if you're familiar with all the tool set and stuff like that. So yeah, I would say that's a great suggestion, to try and use mops. All right, so this. It's an effect out. There we go. Here. Name. Huh, that's weird. Is the name getting transferred over by that? Oh, you know what? I bet you it is. Wasn't even thinking of that. All right. Oh, cool. Yeah, give it a shot. Why not? Give it a shot. Try mops out. It's people love it. I've just been using Houdini for a while before that came out, and I just never really like switched over to the way that they were doing things there. I mean, it's not that different, but I'm not exactly sure how you would do this in there. I'm sure there's a fairly simple way of doing it, but if I'm doing something on the fly, it's easier not for me to not have to be testing out like new types of stuff to figure out like that on the fly. All right, so what I'm going to do is just do an attribute delete because I don't need that name attribute there because it's not anything. So name, we'll get rid of it. Cool. Here is. Thank you guys so much for sticking with me through the little bit jittery stream. Hopefully it's not too bad. I could always re-upload the actual nice quality one after I'm done. The one that I'm actually recording here, I could always re-up that to YouTube, which I probably will afterwards, just because I think this is kind of fun. All right, cool. So we got render RBD, render ground. Cool. So now let's do some karma here. Why not, right? Cool. So we got now I might be feeling a little more comfortable. Teach what you know. Yep, exactly. All right, so let's go into Solaris here. Let's do a scene import. Scene graph tree, make sure I know what's going on here. Great. If you guys haven't been in Solaris before, it is a little different, but I really like it a lot. It actually makes a lot of sense, and it's a nice way to be able to render in Karma. So we're bringing in, that's actually what I want to do. Scene import all. That way. Gotta make sure you smash that like button and subscribe. Yeah, that's not me, man. I don't know. Do it if you want to. Sure, hit the like button and subscribe if you want to, I guess. But I honestly doesn't matter to me. I'm not here for monetization. I'm just here for fun. So, all right. So just so you know, scene import is a way to get everything in from SOPs into Solaris. Scene import all will bring everything in, as you can see right here. We've got everything, which is not everything. We want only the render things. So we're going to go into this. We can set a pattern to be just render that, and then also I will do cam stuff. Pattern. That should bring the render and the camera in. We're going to import our attributes. Should be good. Only thing I'm not liking is the way that this geometry is coming in. So that's not looking good. I'm not happy about that. That is definitely a normal issue. Don't want to import materials. Let's see here. Think about this. So there's a few different ways you can bring things in. So you can do SOP import as well. So what I could do here is actually point to a specific SOP path. And I could do the, oh, you know what? That's what it is. The ground. Yes. Yep. 100%. Because I messed with some stuff after the extrude. You're 100% right. I need to add in normal. I was literally, that just literally was like right in my brain as I looked over and saw you type it. So there's a couple different ways that you can bring things into your scene. So like SOP import is another one. You could also do a SOP create node and actually go inside of here and import it that way if you wanted to. There's a bunch of different ways you could do it, but the scene import should work. So let's go back up here. Let's grab our render ground and here should be good. Let's make sure that that's correct. Normals out. Great. Let's go back to Solaris. There we go. Now we're in a better space. Might get a little bit of weirdness on those sides, but that's fine. Shouldn't be too much of a problem. Great. Now we got normals. So just something to keep in mind, which you may know, you may not know. Let's grab a new pane type. Shoot. Yes, that's what I need to do. I need to split this left, right. That's what I'll do. And then I'll do Solaris. So graph details. Great. So if we look at this render ground, if you're ever wondering where these come in, they come in as some different things here. There's primvars. There are also, there should be normals here, which I'm not actually seeing. Oh, that must be on the mesh probably. Yep, there we go. Okay, so we've got a few different things here. So we've got our normals, got our point position. That's actually the positions. We have the extent, which is like bounds. Let me see what else is there. Velocities, have those calculated as well, which is kind of weird. It shouldn't actually have velocities. Think about that again. Ground rights, ground velocities. It shouldn't. Yeah, it's just, I was not even thinking. It was copying all those attributes over. So my mistake. I'm going to turn off velocities, normals fine, extrude, great. Okay, so anyways, no reason to have velocities coming in. But basically what Solaris / USD does is renames a bunch of things. So like UVs are actually the attribute ST when you're in here. So if you don't see ST, that means you don't have UVs. So just something to keep in mind. The primvars are where like, you know, unique attributes go. So this primvars extrude is what we brought in as an extrusion here on our that's the attribute that's being stored for this prim bar, for this extrusion, basically. And we can use that to maybe drive some color or light or something like that in the render. So we also should have our camera 1, that came in just fine. Looks good. So we've got these all going, cool. Great, so that's working. So we've got our scene import all. And that brings our render RBD, our rendered ground, and our camera. And you can see here that we've got different pieces from the render RBD, it looks like. Not sure if that changes or not over time. It actually might. Oh yeah, it looks like it might over time. Hard to say. 600. Yeah, it is adjusting a little bit. As they're getting emitted, there's more of these pieces that are getting introduced into the RBD sim. So what we can do in here is we could use something like Stage Manager, I think. Should work. Apologize if it doesn't. There we go. So what we can do is we can use the Stage Manager here at this point, and we can just do some like hierarchy kind of cleanup. So we could call this something like, this could be Geo, and we could put the render ground in there, just like that, and then we could add another little prim here, and we could call this sim, put the PD in there. So now we've got our simulation, we've got our geo kind of in separate places, a little cleaner. And so there's some more technical stuff in here that we you don't really need to worry too much about, but just know that this stage manager is a way to be able to kind of organize your scene graph tree. Just scoot this up a little so you can see it better. Great. And I like to have these in separate areas, so like you could have like a geo, we could have a sim, you know, you could have different things like that all, you know, set up differently. And so let's do a few things here. Let's do like maybe a environment light. Should be something good to do like that. And I'm just going to grab one of the default ones. If you're ever just looking for a simple HDRI, there's a couple things in here. I don't know what this skylit garage is. What is this? Yeah, so right now, Solaris and USD is what I'm spending all day and all my working day making content for, basically. You won't unfortunately see it. It's kind of for commercial and educational clients where what I work for. But what I'm doing right now is actually building a whole course on USD Solaris. So yeah, so this is USD is extremely esoteric. That's what I've come to the conclusion of. There's a lot of terms and things and all sorts of stuff that happen in there, but you know, it certainly is worthwhile to figure out and you know work in. And Solaris, I think, is probably one of the better ways to author USD that I've seen out there. I think it's the best, but heck, I work for the company, so I have to say that. But I can't think of any other solution that I've seen that's like a better way to author USD. So, anyways, what we're doing here is yeah, this is kind of the geometry spreadsheet of Solaris. These two panels. There's also another panel that's way more complicated, and we're not gonna get into. But anyways, what I should do too is I should do a material library because we want a couple different materials. I don't know. What should we? I'm trying to think kind of what we should make this look like. Maybe the spheres are like glass or something. Could be kind of fun. And then the ground is like, I don't know. I want to have it glowing somehow. Maybe I love the glowing kind of dark visual thing going on. But so let's try that maybe. Let's make some materials here. I'm just going to use principal shaders because they're pretty easy to do in here. It's nothing too crazy. So yeah, that should be pretty easy to do. What do we want here? Let me just grab something kind of as a default. Sure, glass, great. We can play with that in a little bit. just going to call these glass, and it's going to be colored. For right now, it's just glass. And then let's do another principled shader, and we'll call this round. This is going to have an emission of some type. So, yeah, I love the neon-y kind of Tron thing. I'm just such a sucker for it. I don't know why. What are you going to do? That's just a sucker for it. Let's find maybe a better frame where there's a little more of it. Yeah, let's get this in shot. Okay, so we got our material library. We have a material linker, which we can use. This is just like a little UI to be able to link your stuff together. I'm going to unclick this filter based on selection, and I'm just going to take these both, drop them in here, and let's take our geo. And what I'm actually going to do is, I love some bloom. Yeah, maybe, I don't know. Can we do that in Karma? I'm not sure. I'll have to look. I don't know if that's like a post effect in Karma or not. All right, so let's do the ground as the ground emit here. Let's do the render RBD as colored glass. Great. So that should link those two together. Maybe not. That's weird. Seems like the oh no, they are. They disappeared because that is what glass looks like in. So that's one of the weird things. I'm not 100% sure with this viewport, like how you're supposed to see that, because glass will just disappear then, and you're like, wait, where'd it go? But if I turned on Karma in a second here, let's see. So there's, oh wow, too much visual stuff going. If I turned on Karma now, you'll actually see those little spheres as actual. There you go, actual little balls. Interesting. I don't know what's particularly going on with that ground like that. Must be my normals. I don't know why it's doing that. It's kind of weird. Is it the normals? Huh. Curious. Where's that coming from? I don't think that's actually the. Maybe it is the normals. It's weird. I'll have to look at that. Let's see. All right. Back to this. Yeah, maybe it is. Let's see our, no, wrong. Yeah, that normals. Oh yeah, we definitely got some funky looking normals there. That's weird. Oh, because these are all individual now. Yes, it's causing some weirdness here. Let's see what this is like if I turn the extrude volume off. Maybe that'll be better. Let me run this again. Actually, you know what? I'm not going to even run that. I'll just leave it for right now. Well, that's not right. Where does that get introduced? Huh, must have done something real weird. We're putting backs here. Maybe that's the problem. Yeah, we don't need those. I would say. In fact, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to scale the top down just a touch. Maybe that'll work. Let's try it. Let's see how that goes. Let's put Solaris here. Oops. Looking. Mm-hmm. 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 I think the problem is that this is. No. Why is it doing that? Anybody have any thoughts on that one? Fortunately, rendering has never been my forte. It's definitely a normal thing, but it's just that it's not. It's weird. Not if anybody has any thoughts on that one. That's cool. Let's see if that fixes it. Yeah, it could be. Could be vertices versus points. Yeah, certainly possible. Let's give it a shot. Why not, right? That's interesting if that is the. It's all separate. That's the. Yep. This is the issue, fortunately. Because it's doing the extrusion to all of them. So. Yes, F. All right, we can fix it. We can fix it. Don't worry. We'll come up with it. We'll come up with a solution. Oh, jeez. All right. Well, this is great. Well, let me just let you all know what's going on, and this you'll be able to see this after the fact. All right, guys. Well, my apologies through and through that this disconnected. I don't even know. Absolute disaster. All right. Stream is ending now, but I'm still recording. All right. Well, so sorry for anybody that missed out on this live. I'm gonna keep going unfortunately, without any of you guys. But hey, that is life, I guess. Your streamer is losing its mind. That's great. All right. Well, in that case, I'm gonna take a quick coffee break, and I'll be right back. All right, everybody, let's keep going here. See what we can't do. All right, so I was trying to, trying to see if this maybe was something that could be a normal issue. It isn't. It seems like we have other issues. So, really isn't this at all. So I'm gonna hit normal's good. I'm gonna put it back to vertices. That should be fine. I'm just gonna set this back to default. Actually, I could probably set. Okay. So what I need to do is not be extruding the whole thing, just extruding where the attribute is over, right? So what I will do here is do a group. No. Yeah, I could do expression, I think. What we can do is just do a simple primitive wrangle here. All we need to do is say if spreadsheet over here, over, so we can see the whole thing. If, what's our thing here? If let's do, take these and take this attribute delete. Jumping around a little here, just noticing that I don't need that name attribute anymore. Okay, so if extrude is greater than 0, we'll put it into a group. So if at extrude greater than 0, say group, oops, at group underscore group active equals 1. Great. Now we have that, and if we visualize this, the group to be like red or something, so it's pretty visible. We should see the active group there. So those will be the active things that are being displayed, extruded. And now if we go down here and say normal attribute, the group be active, this, way faster because it's not trying to extrude the entire thing the whole time. So that's kind of nice. Get a little performance boost there. That was a dumb move on my part before. And now if we look at this, in general, they should just have one per. Yep. And that should work much better because you don't need multiple extruded primitives, or multiple primitives per face, basically. So let's go back here. Let's look at the out. Good. Great. Let's look at the camera. All right. So now let's take a look at this. Let's go back to Solaris. There we go. It's just so easy when you don't do something stupid. So there you go. All right. Well, it already looks kind of fun. I mean, it's not anything like groundbreaking or anything like that, but it's kind of fun. Cool. So let's do here. Let's do the ground emit. Let's do something like a little bit metallic or something. That could be kind of fun. And maybe make it even like dark. Yeah, dark metallic. I don't know what we're doing here. Let's just do something cool. Let's do as, let's see here. Actually, scene graph tree, that's where we're going to be. And let's see. USD, can do trim bar. Yep. See, that should be what we want. Yeah, great. Name of the prim var to be read on the mesh. Let's just double check here. The RBD. Just see if there's specific. See if there's anything here that will give us. No, I'm not seeing anything here. Fortunately, I was hoping it'd be like a name or something that would come in with these spheres. All right, we'll just leave those guys as they are. They'll just be glass spheres. That's fine. I don't think we're going to be running into anything too obnoxious there. Cool. So that's all working. Spheres, great. All right, so now let's look at this, and we're going to be using extrude, I believe. Signature should be float. And let's put that into the intensity. Just make sure that we're looking at the right thing here. Let's look at geo, render ground, mesh, trim vars, extrude. What? Front. What? This. Yell. All right, so what you actually need to do is use a material builder. Because I think it actually wants you to do it in a subnetwork. The reader these, I guess, but we'll try this first. Function intensity. Rude 0. Great, and we'll call this. What was this one called? Commit. No, that's just emitting, no. Let's do that. Oh, yep. Oh, okay. The subnetwork doesn't even work. That makes more sense. All right, so let's go back to the material library. We're going to use the material builder. That's going to be what it is. Let's just get this out. Right, so then let's see if we can do. Right, instead of that, let's try something different here. Let's do material, do Karma Material X subnet. This. Do a, no, that has a standard surface that we're going to use instead. Okay, great. Standard surface. Emit. Hey, that seems like it's working. That's fun. All right, let's give it a shot. Let's see. Heyo. Multiply this. So there's a way that I could mix two things together. Just reading through these, seeing what might exist here to see what I can find. So got some color coming in here, but what I want to do is maybe you know, geometric. Okay, maybe that could help. Geometry property value. I don't know what that is. Come help me help. That's super helpful, guys. That's not good. That's card. Thank you. I just want to find one that's like giving me like ID or something like that. Bring in an ID, I guess. Probably the easiest. That's probably the easiest thing to do. Just forget it. I'll just add some IDs in here. So with this, we'll just do D. Or no, actually, do activity class. Class that should stay the same the whole time. Great. So that's good. If we go to Solaris, seed graph tree, look at these. Class is 0 for that one. Class is 1 for that one. Perfect. That, you can actually get different colors for those. And over to this, I kind of wonder if I can. Okay, what I could do is probably from right here add an D to primitives. ID for each primitive. Let's see, extrude. Yep, keeps the same primitive ID for each of those. Perfect. I can see that there's duplicates. Back in here, a bunch of duplicates, which is great. That means that they're getting extruded. Perfect. Okay, cool. So I've got the ID in there. That's going out. Great. Solaris. So now I should have that. Let's see, scene graph tree, render ground. I should have a PRID right there. Each one that's good. So let's just do the same thing. So we'll set this back to Karma, or GL, I mean. Let's do material. Subnetwork. Actually, that's right. I can't even put this one in there, so. Standard surface to there. Smaller, so it's gigantic. Great. All right, so we got material X, standard surface there. Are those linked? Color class. If I could type, be good. It's white because it isn't glass currently, so let's do that. Let's change transmission. Go up with it. They should be 0, we want to say. Let's see how that works. Interesting. How did the ground get so much darker? Oh, maybe I didn't. Oh, there's no light. I was like, how did it get so dark? The light. Dummy. Check the light. Okay. So, that's rendering. So let's look at this colored glass, and we're going to do another primbar reader. This can be PRID. Then that is a integer. And let's do GL. Nope. Remap's not it. I didn't think it would be, but There's not going to be random color in here. Do like a random lookup. Yeah, I guess what I could do is this. All right, so we've got the extrude primitive variable. So what I could do is I could ramp, just do random from attribute. I can put this here, do here ID, do it on the primitive. No, I can't do it because it's 0 to 1. Okay. There we go. Okay. Do body. Interesting. Okay. Solaris, come in here. Let's see how that is. Display color. Guessing that's what I'm looking for. Display color. Where? There we go. Fun. All right. Now we're getting somewhere. So we're going to take this. Emission. Oh, no, sorry, not that. I'm going to do that to base. Flip these. Interesting. I think that would be the metalness. No, I was thinking we'd see some. Does not seem to be. Okay, for a second. Do this. Oh, that's fascinating. Maybe because base, like it needs to be like a full geometry. Maybe it can't calculate that. So let's try. Let's try. That's our grounding it. So I wonder if it's this emission. Weird. Huh. Alright, well, I'm not sure why that's the case, but just gonna let that be, because that doesn't seem to make any sense to me. These should be transparent as well. Hey, it's okay. No problem. So let's do this again. This is gonna go into our mission. Maybe what I can do instead here is these can be specular roughness. What I can do is something like this. Except not that. I don't know what else to do there. Let's see. I'm going to turn this don't light. The class. Okay. Do that in here and just adjust their colors. All right, just this will be easier to do it over here. Not exactly sure how to do it with Material X, but that's fine. Let's bring in, it should probably be display color, I'm guessing. Display color. That's not going to work. It's doing random because it's adding it to... Maybe there's two color attributes here. Let's see if we bring this to a point level. That does any better for us. All right, let's see if that works. Yeah, it looks like we got something that's staying a little bit more normal. Cool. Good. Um, and yeah, that should just about do it for this. So, I think that's where I'm going to end this quote unquote stream, even though things are a little crazy here. And yeah, I'm just going to upload this to YouTube. Thank you to everybody that joined me live, and hopefully you could enjoy this after the fact. But yeah, so thank you so much for joining me as always, and hope to see you next time. And hopefully the internet will be more kind to me next time. Thanks, guys. Talk to you soon.